They shaved the only girl with hair. What grew back
Please
changed
let me
everything.
go.
Hands slammed Nyela's shoulders down. Hold her still.
Don't
She
do
screamed
this.
as fingers tangled in her hair, yanking her head back. The blade flashed once in the firelight.
Please let
No,
me go.
please listen to me. Nyela cried, her voice breaking. I
Don't
swear
do
by my
this.
life, I don't even know that man. No one listened. The first lock of her hair fell to the dirt. A gasp rippled through the crowd. In Kailuan village, no woman had grown hair for generations. Baldness was not shame. It was the law. It was fate. It was a tradition carved into skin and bone. And yet here she was, the only girl born with hair, being shaved like a criminal. And worse, being shaved as if she deserved it. Do it, a woman's voice cut through the noise, sharp with satisfaction. Let the truth show itself. That voice belonged to Mara, Nyela's aunt. The blade moved again. Hair fell in thick black strands, each one landing like an accusation. Nyela sobbed, her chest convulsing, her eyes searching the faces around her for mercy. Some villagers stared with hard resolve. Others looked away. A few stood frozen, mouths open, saying nothing. Silence was louder than screams. As the final strip of hair was scraped from her scalp, Nyela felt something inside her collapse. Not just pride. Not just hope. Identity. When they finally released her, she crumpled to the ground. The crowd stepped back, as if guilt might be contagious. Let this be a lesson, someone muttered. Nyela barely heard it. Her ears rang. Her scalp burned. Her heart felt hollow. She did not know yet that this moment would decide the fate of the entire village. Because long before the blade touched her head, long before the lies, long before the mob, Nyela had been marked by destiny the night she was born. Kailuan village had always been known for one thing. Smooth heads. Girls were born bald. Their daughters were bald. Their grandmothers had been bald. No one questioned it. Mothers did not sing lullabies about hair. Mirrors were rare. Combs did not exist. The elders said it was simply how the world was. But the oldest stories, whispered only when fires burned low, spoke of a curse. Generations ago, there had been a woman named Ashar. She had hair so long it brushed her waist. The men admired her. The women envied her. When a powerful man accused her of shame, the village did not ask questions. They shaved her head. They drove her out. And as she walked into exile, bald and bleeding, Ashara turned back and said, "You will never touch what you destroyed. No daughter born of this soil will grow hair again." By the next generation, the curse had settled like dust. By the third, it was law. By the fifth, it was forgotten. Until Nyela was born screaming into the night with a crown of thick black hair. The midwife froze. The room went silent. Her mother, Senna, reached for the child with trembling hands. "She's beautiful," she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. But fear crept into every corner of the room. "This is not possible," the midwife said under her breath. Senna died before sunrise. Some said it was fate. Others whispered punishment had come too soon. Nyela's father, Torin, tried to shield her from the murmurs. He wrapped her head, kept her close, and refused to listen when neighbors warned him. "She's just a child," he snapped once. If the curse wanted her dead, she wouldn't be breathing. But grief weakens even the strongest. Torin fell ill before Nyela could speak in full sentences. By her 4th birthday, she stood beside 2 fresh graves. With no parents left, Nyela was taken into Mara's home. Mara did not protest. She smiled tightly and said, "Blood is blood." But blood can still burn with jealousy. Mara had a daughter of her own, Lani, the same age as Nyela. Lani was like every other girl in Kailuan, bald, quiet, ordinary. When the girls were toddlers, they played together without noticing the difference. But as Nyela grew, her hair grew too. Shining. Villagers stopped to stare. Women touched it when they thought no one was watching. Men whispered that it looked like woven night. "Such a blessing," one woman said openly at the well. Mara heard it. Every time. At home, Mara's kindness thinned. "Don't let them look at you like that," she snapped once, yanking Nyela's arm. "Lower your eyes." "I didn't do anything," Nyela said softly. Your hair does plenty, Mara replied. Nyela learned to move quietly, to speak gently, to apologize even when she didn't understand why. Still, whispers followed her. Then the seer spoke. Old Varkan had lived longer than anyone in Kailuan. His eyes were cloudy, his back bent, but when he struck his staff against the ground, the village obeyed. Gather, he commanded. Nyela stood behind Mara, her hair hidden beneath a cloth. Varkan inhaled deeply. The curse will end. A murmur spread. It will end, he repeated, through a pure girl born with hair. She will stand beside the crown. Through her, what was taken will return. The cloth slipped from Nyela's head. Gasps exploded like sparks. Varkan's finger rose and pointed straight at her. Mara's face drained of color. Hope ignited the village. Fear followed seconds later. That night, Mara sat awake, staring at Nyela as she slept. If she becomes queen, Mara whispered to herself, what will that make my daughter? The answer burned. And jealousy, once silent, finally chose action. That was the night Mara decided Nyela would never wear a crown. And soon, the village would help her make sure of it. The plan unfolded quietly, the way cruel things often do. Mara waited 3 nights. On the 4th, she brought Nyela a cup of warm drink and smiled in a way she never had before. You look tired, she said gently. Drink this. It will help you sleep. Nyela hesitated. It smells bitter. Mara's smile tightened. So does medicine. Nyela drank. The world tilted within minutes. Her limbs grew heavy. The room spun. She tried to speak, but the words slipped away. The last thing she saw was Mara's face hovering above her, eyes sharp and unblinking. Rest, Mara whispered. Tomorrow will be different. Nyela woke to shouting. Rough hands dragged her upright. The night air bit into her skin. Torches flared, casting wild shadows. Her head pounded. Her mouth tasted like metal. What's happening? She asked, panic rising. Aunt Mara? A man was shoved forward. His shirt was torn. His eyes darted everywhere but at her. That's her, he said loudly. She tempted me. She pulled me into her room. Nyela stared at him, stunned. I don't know you, she said. I swear I've never seen you before. Laughter rippled through the crowd. She lies easily, someone said. Nyela shook her head. Please. I was asleep. Ask anyone. Ask my aunt. Mara stepped forward. I found them together, she said coldly. I tried to stop her. She refused to listen. Nyela's breath caught. Why are you saying this? She cried. Why would you do this to me? Mara met her gaze without flinching. Because the village must be protected. Fear spread like fire. The elders whispered among themselves. Tradition was clear. A woman found guilty of shame must be shaved. If her hair did not grow back, guilt was confirmed. Nyela dropped to her knees. I beg you, she said, tears streaming down her face. I have done nothing wrong. I don't even understand what you accuse me of. Old Varkan stood silent, his face unreadable. Enough, an elder declared. The law will speak. The blade was brought out. Nyela screamed then, a raw sound that ripped through the night. Please. Someone believe me. No one did. When it was over, Nyela stumbled back into Mara's house bald and broken. No one spoke to her. No one met her eyes. Lonnie stood in the doorway, watching. For a moment, something flickered across her face, doubt, perhaps, but it vanished when Mara placed a hand on her shoulder. It's over, Mara said softly. Justice has been done. But justice did not feel like this. The days that followed blurred together. Nyela moved through the village like a ghost. Children whispered and pointed. Women pulled their daughters away from her path. At the well, conversations stopped when she approached. At night, she pressed her hands to her bare scalp and cried silently, afraid even her grief might offend. She deserves it, someone said once within earshot. The curse punishes the impure. Nyela stopped believing in tomorrow. Then one morning, everything changed. She woke to an itch. At first, she ignored it. Then she felt it again, sharp, insistent. She raised a trembling hand and touched her scalp. Something prickled beneath her fingers. "No," she whispered. "No, that's not possible." She ran to the stream and leaned over the water. Tiny black strands pushed through her skin. Nyela's breath caught. "It's growing," she whispered. "My hair, it's growing." By noon, whispers had spread. By evening, fear had replaced certainty. Mara noticed first. She stared at Nyela's head, her face draining of color. "That's impossible," she muttered. "It can't be." Lonnie looked closer. "Mother, that is." Mara's hands began to shake. The old stories returned with force. A guilty woman stayed bald. Only the falsely accused grew hair again. Mara's sleep vanished. She jumped at every sound. Every whisper felt like an accusation. 2 days later, the king's guards arrived. "By order of His Majesty," one announced, "all involved in the accusation of Nyela are to come before the throne." Mara's knees buckled. The palace was silent as Nyela stood before the king, her hair now unmistakable. The man who had accused her trembled beside Mara. The king's voice cut through the room. "Speak the truth." The man broke instantly. "She paid me," he sobbed, pointing at Mara. "She said I would be rewarded. I never touched the girl. I swear it." Gasps filled the hall. Mara screamed, "He lies." But the truth had already taken root. Nyela's voice shook as she spoke. "I asked for mercy," she said. "I asked for someone to believe me." The king rose slowly. "You were denied," he said. "And so was justice." Guards moved in. Mara collapsed, screaming Lonnie's name. Nyela did not smile. She felt only relief and sorrow. Because truth had returned too late to spare her pain. And yet it had returned. If this story is gripping you, stay till the end, because what happens next doesn't just change Nyela's life, it transforms the entire village forever. The palace doors closed behind them with a heavy thud, and for the first time since her birth, Nyela felt the weight on her chest loosen. Not disappear, but loosen. She stood alone in the courtyard, fingers brushing the short hair on her head as if touching proof that she still existed. "You were brave," a calm voice said. Nyela looked up. Prince Halrin stood a few steps away, no crown on his head, no guards at his side. Just a man with steady eyes. "I wasn't brave," Nyela replied quietly. "I was afraid the entire time." He nodded. "That's usually when bravery shows." She almost laughed, but the sound turned into a sob instead. "They all believed I was dirty," she said, "even when I begged them to listen." Halrin's jaw tightened. "They failed you." "They failed themselves," she whispered. Word of the trial spread faster than fire through dry grass. By nightfall, Kailuan village buzzed with shame and awe. Women touched their own bare heads nervously. Men avoided each other's eyes. No one spoke too loudly anymore. Mara was stripped of status. She and Lonnie were removed from their home and assigned to work the lowest tasks, hauling water, cleaning animal pens, sweeping streets they once walked proudly upon. Lonnie cried as she worked. "I didn't know," she whispered one night. "I swear I didn't know." Nyela watched from a distance, her heart heavy. "You knew enough to stay silent," she said gently. Lonnie flinched, then nodded. "I was afraid." "So was I," Nyela replied. "But fear doesn't excuse cruelty." Days passed. Nyela's hair grew faster than anyone had ever seen. The throne alive. Women began to whisper prayers when they saw her. Some knelt. Others wept. Then, on the 7th day after the trial, the king summoned the village. The square filled before sunrise. Nyela stood beside Prince Harlan, her back straight, her chin lifted. She felt every stare, every regret, every unspoken apology. The king raised his hands. "Generations ago," he said, "this village committed an unforgivable crime. Instead of learning, you repeated it." Silence fell. "But today," he continued, "the truth was stronger than tradition. And through that truth, healing may come." Halrin turned to Nyela. "Will you stand with me?" he asked quietly. Nyela hesitated, then spoke clearly. "I will, not for power," she said, "but so no girl ever kneels the way I did again." Cheers erupted. The wedding was held at dawn 3 days later. Nyela wore no jewels, no gold. Her hair flowed freely down her back, untouched, unbound. As she stepped forward, a woman cried out. Then another. A young girl gasped and clutched her head. "Mother," she whispered, "it feels strange." Tiny strands of hair pushed through bare skin. Gasps turned to screams. Screams turned to laughter. Women fell to their knees, touching their heads in disbelief. Everywhere. The curse shattered like glass. Nyela closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. She felt the earth breathe again. Later that evening, as the sun sank low, Nyela stood on the balcony overlooking the village. The air hummed with joy, shame, and rebirth. Halrin joined her. "You could have destroyed them," he said. "No one would have blamed you." Nyela shook her head. "They already lived in destruction," she replied. "I wanted them to see something better." Below them, Mara scrubbed the stone steps. Her hands were raw. Her shoulders bent. Nyela descended slowly. Mara looked up, terror flashing across her face. "Please," she whispered. Nyela raised a hand. "I won't punish you further," she said. "But you will live knowing what envy costs." Mara bowed, sobbing. Nyela walked away lighter than she had ever felt. Years later, children would sit around fires and tell her story. They would say truth grows back. They would say innocence survives blades. They would say a village once tried to destroy the only girl with hair, and in doing so, almost destroyed itself. But they would also say this: she forgave. She healed. And because of her, no woman ever feared her own difference again. If this story moved you, subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Like the video if you believe truth always finds a way back. And comment below, do you think you could forgive after what Nyela endured? Because stories like this don't just entertain. They remind us who we choose to be.